He's Howard Eibach, a former copywriter and creative director and the author of 2 books on the creative brief.
And he's Henry Gomez, an ad agency strategist with over 27 years of experience. Together, he and I are the Brief Brothers. We love talking about creative briefs, briefing, and advertising. We're back for another episode, Henry. We are continuing our exploration of creative briefs, and I want to make sure to give credit to Baiba Madison. Her creative brief bank has a nice selection of briefs, and we borrowed one. This one is written by Crispin Porter Boguski. It is a brand platform brief for Best Buy. We're going to take a look at it right now. Let's do a screen share. All right. I guess I'll get us started here. I have personally looked at a number of creative briefs by Crispin Porter Boguski. I think we've talked about one way back when for a Burger King product. What I like about the way they approach briefs is they give it an art direction. They have a unique style of the brief, the way it's laid out, which I think forces the brief writers to be brief. And here we have one page. They have position, personality, target, tension, customer promises, and mission, and that's it. So for this particular brief assignment, the position is your trusted source for technology. The personality is genuine, optimistic, fun. The target is tech optimists. Tension. Now, tension is a unique POV, a point of view that CPB uses when it writes briefs. And here they say, I love the products Best Buy sells, but I'm not inspired by the experience. Customer promises, assortment, advice, ease and convenience, support, sustainability. Mission, to ignite human potential. Now, okay, my thoughts about this brief. I think what I would do first is translate some of their topic ideas into what I would understand to be a more traditional brief. So the first thing I would look at would be mission, because I think that's the single-minded proposition. I could be wrong, but I think that's the single-minded proposition.
See, I think the single-minded proposition is your trusted source for technology.
Okay. All right. Well, see, I'd need a brief writer such as you to help explain that to me, because then I guess I missed that. Now,
because
target,
if I'm looking, yeah, go ahead.
I was just say the target. Boy, I need a lot more than that. What is a tech
100%.
optimist? It's like, that's a great starting point, but finish the thought, please. Tell me what you think a tech optimist is, because there's just too many, it's too vague, and it opens itself up to too much misinterpretation. Now, you and I have talked about tension before, but we use a different term for it. We call it a shift. I'm not sure if the two are synonymous, but if there is something about this brief that is close to what a shift is, this might be it. Now, we've talked about a shift being, what do they, meaning the target audience, what do they think now about the product or the category? What would we like them to think once they've seen our communication? It's not it's not perfectly synonymous, but it's the closest that I can come to it, because it's got
this is like the before. This is the before.
Yeah. I love the products, but I'm not inspired by the experience once I go into the store. So I guess, in our discussion, I guess I'm seeing that, yeah, the mission is, this is the objective. The mission is closer to the objective. And in that sense, I like the verb, to ignite human potential. In other words, let's make the experience of a Best Buy store better, more, exciting, more possible. All right. So just talking this out with you has helped clarify some things, Henry. I need to keep you around every time I look at a brief. So thank you. So I would say overall, it's got some holes that I would have questions at the briefing, right? I need to know some more stuff. And as I mentioned to you before we started recording, my sense is there's a learning curve to understanding how the brief works at CPB, or at least back in the day when CPB was using this particular format for a brief. And once I got my head around this and understood how they worked, I could dive right in and start thinking. Right now, I've got to stop and ask questions about the format itself before I can start thinking. And that's just because I'm not familiar with it. What do you think, Henry?
So we talked a little bit about what the single-minded proposition here might be, whether it's what they have listed as the position or the mission. And I think both of them lack something to make it the actual single-minded proposition. Maybe combining them, like maybe the single-minded proposition is Best Buy ignites human potential by being the trusted source for technology, right?
I like that.
And so you could combine those two thoughts. Certainly, the customer promises to me are the reasons to believe or the evidence, which we normally see in a brief format, right? Like it says just one word assortment there, but obviously the idea there is that we have a wide assortment. We provide great advice. It's a retail store. It's easy and it's convenient. We provide support after the sale, things like that. So they're one word, and that's fine. It's very brief. I think it gets across. The target obviously is the big kind of letdown in this brief because we don't really know. Now, from prior work going back 20 years, there was a particular research company. I want to say maybe it was Forrester Research. They talked about tech optimists. And basically, tech optimists are people who believe that technology is a positive force in their life. And it's generally younger people. It's generally certain types of socioeconomic level, etc. Right? So there are people that reject technology, right? Like there's the Unabombers of the world, Ted Kaczynski, right, who are Luddites, and they reject technology, or they don't understand technology. Generally, the older you get, the harder it is to keep up with technology. I would have liked to have seen some of that blown out here to tell us like who these people are and why Best Buy would be important to them. Like why having technology and having access to it helps ignite their human potential and ladders up to that.
You
And
know,
then
one thing,
go
just to
ahead.
interrupt, I apologize for interrupting, but
No,
one thing that we haven't really discussed on this, just in breaking down this brief and on the other occasions when we've reviewed briefs, and I think it's very important, and that is, what is the role of the briefing? You have the brief itself, and then how is the brief used in the actual creative briefing? Now, I don't know the answer, but my guess might be that they would have a deeper discussion about these tech optimists. Conversely, or in addition, it might be, well, they don't feel the need to expand on this because the team or teams working on this particular project are deeply knowledgeable of who these tech optimists are. Nevertheless, you and I
we
are discussing these briefs as teaching tools, and this is a flaw, I'd say, as a teaching tool.
100%. And we had the same issue with a Crispin Porter Bogusky brief for Burger King where
Yep.
they talked about super fans. And I happen to know what super fans are because I worked on Burger King as well during that time that Crispin was the general market agency, and superfans was a very specific thing. It was people that went and ate at quick service restaurants more than X times a month, and they tended to be male, and they tended to be young, and they tended to be slackers and gamers. And there was like this whole, but everybody that was working on the brand knew that. So perhaps everybody that was working on this brand knew it as well. The other big letdown for me on this brief is the personality, right? Like the brand tone. This is really generic. Like for an agency like Crispin that at one time was like the hottest creative shop in the country, you would think that the tone would be a lot more defined and evocative and provocative than three generic words like genuine, optimistic, and fun.
Well, I agree with you. But given the fact that CPB was so powerful and had such a big influence on our industry in terms of the way they did the work and the work that they produced, my guess is they made this work too. But yeah, as a creative, looking at that, I would definitely want more. It's not enough for me. So let me come out of our little screen share here to wrap up and say, good stuff, Henry.
Good stuff, Howard.
He's Henry Gomez.
And he's Howard Eibach, and together we're the Brief Brothers. Until next time, bye-bye.